You know, in an old George Gallup survey, he reported that people with a high level of self-confidence were more successful, more satisfied with their lives, more willing to help others, are physically healthier, they hold themselves to a higher moral and ethical standard, and are more likely to assume leadership, have more satisfying relationships, they are more productive, less affected by stress, and more likely to see God as a caring, loving, and forgiving God. Now you know why building confidence is so important to us as believers. David says in Psalms, I have complete confidence, oh God. Now, I got to tell you, I really would like to have that degree of confidence, especially in these crazy times, these grace-free times that we're living in. We've talked about confidence now for 3 weeks, and it's been kind of heavy theological. A lot of verses about the theology behind confidence from God. Today I want to be a little bit more practical. I found a lot of material on the internet, far more to use in a single message. But after a while, after you start looking at one page and then another page, they all sort of start to fall into some broad categories. And I just want you to look at a few of them today. Number one, the biggest one I think, is be yourself. To be a confident person, be yourself. I mean, it seems obvious that this would happen, but it's not. It's rare. Because just about everybody is trying to be somebody else. All the young people, they're trying to be like the old people. And all the older folk are trying to be like the younger folk. And very few people accept themselves for who they are right now. The way God created me, I'm okay with that. I accept it. You know, insecurity is just the opposite. Insecurity is when you try to be somebody that you're not. And even Christians can fall into that trap. When I first started out in the ministry, I tried to preach like Billy Graham. It was horrible. It sounded bad and looked worse. Why? I'm not Billy Graham. I wasn't Billy Graham then. And no one could ever preach like Billy Graham except Billy Graham. Everybody has to find their own style. There's a preacher out in Southern California. You know him, Rick Warren. We talk about him, read a lot of his books. He preaches in Hawaiian t-shirts or, beach shirts. And that's okay. That's Southern California. You dress like that all day long. But around the time that he was, very popular, a lot of the people over in Tennessee in the Bible college, they started preaching in a beach shirt. One of these big old Hawaiian shirts, you know what I'm talking about? They just look silly in the middle of Tennessee. You have to be who you are and comfortable with it. You have to be able to say what Paul's saying on your screen. By the grace of God, I am what I am. Paul goes even a little further. He says you need to have a sane estimate of your capabilities by the light of faith that God has given you. He's saying, honestly, you need to look at yourself and know what you're good at. You need to know your strengths. You need to know your weaknesses. And then you need to play to your strengths. Now, improve your weaknesses if you can. But focus on your potential, not your limitations. Despite what you heard from the Declaration of Independence, we are not all equal. We're just not. I will never be able to sing like Larry Gatlin. I guess I'm showing my age on that one. Or Paul Balash. And most of you won't either. I will never be able to play guitar like Jimi Hendrix or Eric Clapton. Most of you won't either. But I do need to focus on my strengths, what I am good at. And I have to start by just being myself, getting away from this tendency to try to be like somebody else. It never works. Accept yourself. God has made you. Number 2, do your best. Whatever you're doing. Aim for excellence in everything you do. Paul writes this, let everyone be sure that he's doing his very best, for then he will have the personal satisfaction of work well done and won't need to compare himself with someone else. Now, I told you need to know your strengths and your weaknesses. You need to focus on your own abilities, your skills, your experience. Here's the point, and it's a subtle point, but you need to get it. It's more important to do your best than to be the best. Parents, you're going to have to teach that to your children at some point along the line. Not everybody can be the best. And truth is, we don't even know in any field, we don't know who the best is because they're still in competition. Each one saying, I'm the best in this or that or the other. So teach your children to do the best they can, not to be the best. Your ability is God's gift to you. What you do with His gift is your gift to Him. And the last part of that verse said, don't compare, and that's, guess what, number 3. We've talked about this a lot. We really do, but it's important. Stop judging yourself by everybody else. What they own, where they live, what they drive. Now, I agree, it's very important and it's very difficult in this kind of crazy competitive society. Paul says we don't dare classify or compare ourselves. When you compare yourself with yourself, you're not wise. We all have this radar, though. We've always had it. It's right in the forehead and it's constantly scanning. When we were children, it's who got the biggest piece of pie. No, I'm serious. In fact, when our kids, we had 3, when they were younger, much younger, on Christmas morning, they would sit there with calculators and add up which one has the most presents under the tree. I mean, not number of presents, but in how much each one's worth. Well, you got a little bit older. You went to school and all you did was compare yourself to the other students. What did they make on that test? How did they score? And you're still doing it. You judge each other now as adults by which one of you's got the bigger, better boat in your front yard or something else. David said, I nearly lost my confidence because I was jealous. You just need to know that when you constantly compare yourself to somebody else, you are hurting you more than anything else. Now, last week we talked about how other people can hurt you and scar you. Well, this is scarring yourself, all right? This is self-inflicted. When you compare in anything, you will always become bitter or full of vanity. Now, let me just explain that. You're always going to find somebody out there who does a worse job than you do. You know, they're just there. And you're going to feel most likely like, oh, look how sorry they do whatever. I do it so much better. I do it so much faster. I am just so much more talented than they are because they don't even carry a candle next to me. And that's going to hurt you because that's called pride. And it works the opposite way because when you look out there, you're also going to see people who can do it faster than you. And they are doing it better than you. And you're now going to be like, well, what's wrong? Are they cheating? Did they break the rules? Did they know somebody else? How did they get ahead? Because they can't be that far ahead. And you're going to become very bitter. You know what you're going to do at that point? Most people, most of us, we're going to start griping and complaining. All right, you want to be confident? Humble advice. Be yourself. Accept yourself. Do the very best job you can, whether we're talking about taking out the trash or teaching Sunday school in the church. And don't compare. Number 4, choose the right friends. The company you keep has a dramatic influence on your self-esteem and confidence. So you better choose your closest friends wisely. You've heard the verse from Corinthians, bad company corrupts good character. I would guarantee that your mama told you that at some point in your life. And if it wasn't that, they would have told you, birds of the feather flock together. Or my favorite, if you want to soar with eagles, you can't run with the turkeys. You really do have to choose your friends wisely. They influence you more than you influence them. John Maxwell, he's a preacher. He talks about the Charlie Brown syndrome. Now, Charlie Brown is the world's greatest loser. He never gets it right. And he is a loser in just about everything he tries to do. But there is no doubt in my mind why Charlie Brown is a loser. Anybody know why? Lucy. Lucy is always telling Charlie Brown what he's doing wrong or why his idea is dumb. In fact, in a cartoon that Charlie Schultz put out once, this is Lucy speaking. She says, you, Charlie Brown, are a foul ball in the line drive of life. You stand in the shadow of your own goalpost. You are a miscue. You are 3 putts on the 18th green. You are a 7-10 split in the 10th frame. You're a missed free throw. You're a called third strike. You were a dropped rod and reel in the lake of life. Do you understand me, Charlie Brown? Have I made myself clear? Whoa, with friends like Lucy, you don't need enemies. Now, the point. A lot of you have some Lucys in your life. They constantly insult you. They irritate you. They criticize you. They see their mission in life to just put you down. And what do you do with these kind of people? Well, the simple answer is you really need to avoid them as much as you can. Solomon says, you can be ruined by the talk of godless people. Now, seriously, it's extreme, but sometimes you may just have to change where you work or the people you work with. And sometimes it's crazy. Sometimes you might want to reconsider your new boyfriend or your new girlfriend if they're acting like Lucy all the time. Some of you say, well, I can't get rid of them because they're family. Okay, listen, newsflash. If your family is constantly putting each other down and just destroying each other's self-confidence, you need to call a family conference and say, hey, stop, because this is not helping our family or our children. You want to be confident, you need to be around godly, confident people. You need to be in a small group so they can support you. You need to find a role model, somebody who is godly and confident, or even a mentor. A lot of the things on the internet, like I was joking earlier, they're very personal, wearing deodorant and, smiling and, brushing your teeth and making good eye contact and even advice that they give about how to dress for situations is great stuff. But we can't really have a lot of sermons on deodorant. It might be really important in Galion, Ohio, but we just don't have the time. So that's where your closest friends come in. You ask your closest, God-fearing, confident friend, hey, how am I doing? And, if they're good friends, they're going to tactfully share with you because that's what they would want as well. Number 5, invest your life wisely. The most confident people I know are busy doing something that gives them an incredible sense of purpose. They have a reason to get up in the morning, they have a reason to live, and they are into something that is bigger than they are. It may be different things for different folk, but there's something that they're giving their life for. Jesus talks about that when he says, for anyone who keeps his life for himself shall lose it, but anyone who loses his life for me will find it again. He's saying we really, truly become ourselves when we give ourselves away to others. There's a big myth out there that successful people are just lucky and that they don't have the problems that the rest of us have, and that's why they're successful and we're not that successful, and that is a myth. Successful people have as much, if not more, hang-ups and problems than we do. They just ignore them. There's an old study. Well, it's not that old, but they took 300 people, famous people, had to be famous, and examined their childhood. And we're talking like Einstein, Schweitzer, Franklin Roosevelt, Helen Keller, Gandhi, Winston Churchill, this degree of famous. And they just checked their home life. Here's what they found. 75% of all that 300 people, as children, they were troubled by severe poverty, a broken home, or parents who rejected them, or domineering parents. 75% of them. 25% of all that 300 had a severe physical handicap. So how did they become successful in spite of all of this? It's kind of what we're saying here. They compensated for their weaknesses. They focused on their strengths. They got a task. They got a purpose for living. And they concentrated on that and not what they couldn't do. So if you want to be a confident person, be yourself. Don't try to be anybody else. You can't be anyway. God wants you to be you. He made you, so be you. Accept yourself. And do your best. Number 2. Don't focus on all the things you can't do. Look at what you're good at. Improve them if you can. But God doesn't expect you to be good at everything. You don't have to be good at everything. Just whatever you do it with excellence. I like this phrase. Do your best and forget the rest. It is just that simple. Number 4, choose the right friends. You want people who build you up, not tear you down. That's just common sense. Number 5, invest your life into something greater. And stand up for what you believe. Talk softly. Be calm. But also speak assertively. And let them know it's serious. And don't give in and constantly apologize for who you are. And, say your piece and stand up for what you believe. So homework, try something different this week. Step out and just try something really different and see if it fits you. One last point, and it's not even a huge point, so praise team, you can come on down. Life is difficult, life is tough. But look at this final verse. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord and has made the Lord his hope and confidence. What is your source of confidence? Some of you are trusting in your career because right now your career is going good for you. Some of you are trusting in your bank account right now because, right now your bank account is smiling on you. Some of you are trusting in your good looks because right now you look good. Some of you right now are trusting in your husband or your wife to be your stability in life. And all of those things are great. The only one problem is that they all can be taken away from you. You can lose your career, you can lose your money, you can lose your health, you can lose your family, and then what are you going to do? One of the problems I have with looking at the internet all week this week was that while I agree with a lot of it, the big thing I just don't agree with. The big thing is that you have the power to make it happen. And you have it within you to just develop yourself into the most successful man or woman on this planet. If you go to the right seminar, pay the right price, or buy the right book. And the truth of the matter is that's why God has to be at the center of confidence. To be really confident, you have to have a source of confidence that you can't lose. Like I say, you can lose all the other, but you can't lose your relationship with God if you have that. That's why it's so important for you not just to be a church comer or church goer. It's important for you to be a believer, an active Christian. And that's why it's so important to be who you are and where you are, right in the middle of the body of Christ, as we try to be an expression of grace to the community around us. That's where confidence comes for. Stand and let's share a final song this morning.